I'm sure all of us have asked the same question. Is there a God? Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? Is there an afterlife? A while ago I had this dream. I don't remember if it was a dream or a daydream or just a memory, but I was looking up at the sky and in the clouds I saw two shadows, one light, one dark. Both these shadows had wings, and in between them was another figure. This figure was on its knees with its head bowed low before the shadow of light, and then it disappeared. The shadow of light and the shadow of dark looked like it then merged into one another or collided into one another, and then it looked as though it was just raining black ash. Before we enter the gates of heaven or paradise, Eden, whatever you want to call it, Nirvana, we stand before the angel of light, the one to whom our last judgment stands. And this angel is the viceroy of heaven, the commander of all the armies, prince of the elect, Archangel Michael. I've actually got a painting of Archangel Michael, and I've had it for as long as I can remember. And in this picture, it has Archangel Michael standing over an angel of dark, banishing it. And in one hand, Archangel Michael is holding his sword, and in the other, he's holding scales. It's representing a battle between good and evil, humanity and society. Not so much purgatory, where we basically suffer before we enter the gates of heaven, but more about who we were and whether we had abused our humanity by choosing to perform the acts of evil when we were humans. And so, are we more inclined to conform because we have hope in the belief that there is a heaven? Or do we fear of the possibility that there is a hell? In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, God called the light from the darkness. He called the light day. In the darkness, he called night, the first day. The power of conception on the second day resumed with the creation of the realms of duality. The thing is this: how could light be needed if darkness had not preceded it? Our perspective that we have of heaven and hell would be a lot easier if we were correct. But what would it mean? It would mean that the angels of heaven could do no wrong and the angels of hell could do no good, effectively leaving angels with no free will, and that is not the case. For every being who offers a bridge to walk over, another being is there to entice someone into troubled waters. Without this, free will will not be possible. There is an existence equally of light and dark. And so this is the inversion of the usual paradigm for self-actualization or spiritual awakening. It's easy to say that we love ourselves, but it's another to really know how much of it we actually acknowledge or embrace the understanding of unconditional, authentic self-love. But authenticity comes with a price. In order for us to be authentic, we need to acknowledge and see the parts of ourselves that is less authentic, inauthentic. We as humans are vessels with so many frailties, with a heart that relies on lungs that in turn rely on oxygen to be ever present, an intellect that relies on senses of the flesh to feed it knowledge. Most of us as individuals don't realise how strong we really are, our own strengths, our own courage, our own willpower, and our humanity. I used to think was our weakness because we embody the emotions, but we've also got the ability to switch it all off, our feelings. And this was how I learned the hard way. Shutting it all off is self-destruction. And technically we don't turn it off, we suppress it. We disassociate ourselves from ourselves. We disconnect. This makes us less authentic. And so when all of our suppressed emotions eventually, inevitably emerges, it comes in waves, like a tsunami of humanity's emotions and hitting you directly in the heart. And it's up to us to find that courage within ourselves, finding our strength in what feels like suffocation and drowning in the ocean of humanity's tears. The path to enlightenment and depression are both an awakening, also known as understanding the universal law of polar opposites. Enlightenment associates with light. Depression associates with darkness. And through this process of experiencing the extreme polarities, by synthesizing the extremes of energetic opposites. We need to find our light within our dark. And to do that, we have to visit every part of our darkness, our broken, our sadness, our weakness, until there's no shadows left. Again, the inversion of the associations that comes with the paradigm for self-actualization is depending on how we interpret enlightenment. The spiritual transformation is usually associated with the heavens and the light, and the path to illumination is based on becoming the master of self with uncorrupted virtue. But based on my own personal journey, was taking a journey I hadn't planned on into the darkest depths of my mind. This is where our broken is buried. Not being able to hide and run from our own mind, we're watching it claw itself out to see the distorted images of ourselves that we had neglected. And so this journey is basically asking yourself of how much of you and your flaws are you willing to acknowledge. The shit we've gone through when we were a kid, the cruel high school years as a teenager, the traumatic memories that we had buried in our unwanted pile of not today, whatever we had buried away underneath the foundations of false layers of our inauthentic masks, became my own interpretation of the road to illumination and also to enlightenment. Was to master first the lower impulses of my own corrupted virtues. So what helped me get through my own haunting and darkest moments of my life was when I had stopped asking, when will I be okay? Realizing that there is no answer, only a realization that it is okay to sometimes not be okay. And there's our light within our dark. It doesn't go away completely and possibly never will. And then you have to ask yourself, will I be okay with that? Will I be okay with knowing that my scars, my invisible scars, and my darkest memory of my darkest moments may never heal? And then you realize that after a while, when you're back in your own little shell of darkness, this is a battle that has attempted to destroy me over and over and over again. But it never did, because I had defeated this the last time I was in this hell. And so what this is just another battle for me to conquer what I had already defeated. But it will never win. It's acknowledged, but it will never become you. And so this brings me to the question that no one can really answer, even though it's written by man, on whether our souls will be judged in the golden scales of Archangel Michael. Being judged on whether we are worthy to enter the gates of Nirvana is again open to interpretation. There is no right and wrong. It's whatever you believe in. Same goes with the labels of light and dark. None of them are associated with good or evil. Light and dark is the yin and the yang in spirituality. And the battle of good versus evil is the battle that we have within ourselves, within our shadow and our light. Every new cycle begins with darkness, as it also states in the beginning of creation. Just as night is the beginning of the day and gives way to the light that awakens the world to the next dawn, there is beauty in our darkness, and it is our choice on whether we want to embrace it. Both the energies of light and dark has a power in which we can express in different ways, but the energy of power is neutral. It is how we use that energy of power that shapes us into who we are. Darkness rules through fear, and light rules through divinity. Without the dark, we'd be blinded by the light, and without the light, we wouldn't be able to see through the dark. Our shadow self, the darkness within, aligns us with our ego. The light expands us into the spirit. And I'll refer back to the story of Moses when God had come to him, not as a form, but as a voice, saying, I am that I am. And so again, when we think of God, when we think of our consciousness, it doesn't have a form. And so therefore we are, each and every single one of us, are the I am race. There is the infinite I am presence, the individualized I am presence, and also the impersonal I am that is embedded in every particle of life's universal. We are the director of how our life, our love, and our light will unfold. Because as individuals, we have the potential to experience the whole because we are the whole. Our consciousness is us, is beyond form as well as God, and that is why it can transcend any form to experience the totality of God, because we had gone through life's harsh circumstances, experiencing all of humanity's emotions, and through the crappy trials and tribulations, we had broken through each and every one of them. We learned how to breathe through the fire without getting burnt. We learned how to breathe underwater in the ocean of our own tears because we allowed it to flow. And by placing our light and our dark on the scales, providing us the balance of our own yin and yang and the light and the dark within us, we chose to believe in ourselves, finding our courage and our strength. We become our own judge without the need of anyone's approval, and believing in ourselves and that we are worthy, knowing that we can create our own heaven on earth.